Hello everyone, welcome to my anime list review, where I take my many years of anime consumption and put it through the ultimate test of quality. With around 200 different items on my anime list, there's bound to be a wide variety of quality in the content I've seen in my time. Join me as I rewatch every show on my list, review and rank them, and hopefully give you something to watch in the process. Aho-Girl is a 2017 episodic slice-of-life comedy anime about Yoshiko's relentless torment of Akutsu and the other people around her. Right off the bat, if you just want a comedy to laugh your ass off at, stop this video and go watch it. Actually, maybe just pause this video or save it to watch later. Regardless, go watch it and come back to see my review and ranking. Speaking of which, what do I think of this show? It's pretty good. Nothing to really write home about, but it's a perfectly serviceable comedy with great characters and jokes. Hey, what about those characters though? The characters in this anime are a mix of incredibly funny ones that bounce off each other very well, and characters I wouldn't blame you for forgetting about. Before getting into this segment, I just want to preface it by saying I am American, and I have spoken English my entire life. I already have an extremely hard time remembering the names of people around me, so I'm even worse at foreign names. If I butcher any pronunciation, please just let it slip by, and I will probably get better in the future. Our main characters are the idiotic orange-haired devil Yoshiko and her childhood friend and straight man character Akutsu. The story bounces between both of the points of view, so it's hard to say who is the actual main character, but I think it leans more towards Yoshiko. Yoshiko, as the main character, throws every plot into action by barging in and doing some of her normal, less than intelligent antics and forcing the other characters to join her. I honestly could not ask for a better main character in a comedy anime. She plays such an active role even when she isn't the focus of the story, and when she is, there's never a dull moment with her. Like, seriously, you know your main character is good when they can make a story traveling to a banana farm or dealing with a possible sexual assaulter hilarious. She isn't the only star of the show, however. Akutsu is connected at the hip with Yoshiko and he hates it. He is one of the top people in his class, so he is never amused by Yoshiko's relentless zeros she gets on every test. He's also the one forced to wake her up in the morning because when they were kids, she moved next to him and hasn't left him alone since. He is constantly dragged into Yoshiko's antics, and because of that, he has learned how to deal with her in the most efficient ways possible. Their character dynamic as the all-important main duo is the most important, and it is phenomenal. They bounce off each other so well, and I just wish they had more screen time with just the two of them so we could see even more of their hijinks take place. Akutsu constantly has to be the voice of reason to keep Yoshiko under control in a very active way. There are other characters, however, that keep her in check besides Akutsu. The first of the side characters is Sayaka, who is arguably best girl of the show. At first introduced as the shy, passive, stereotypical cute girl. As she shows up more, we get to see her own way of dealing with not only Yoshiko, but also Akutsu. She kinda just goes along with the randomness until it's something absolutely ridiculous. The banana story is a great example of this, as they run the entire way to the banana farm all because Yoshiko started doing so. If it were Akutsu accompanying her on that trip, he would have knocked her out and gotten on the train with just the two of them. Hell, he might have skipped the train entirely and just told her she visited in her sleep and she'd believe it. The next character is Fuki, or as she referred to in the show, Boob President. She's introduced as the disciplinary committee head and promptly falls in love with Akutsu. Her entire character is pretty much competing with Yoshiko for Akutsu's attention, which is quite funny as he wants nothing to do with either of them, but she slowly develops into a stalker and goes to more drastic measures to get with him. The other characters aren't nearly as prominent and go as follows. Ryuichi, a blonde-haired deviant and a male counterpart to Yoshiko. He's also very unsmart and isn't really showed much. Yoshiko's mother, who is great while she's on screen, but is only really there as a character others fight. Ruri, Atsuku's dumb sister, who is terrified of turning into Yoshiko in the future. Mamoru, Tadashi, and Nozomi, a group of kids Yoshiko befriends from a playground who she drags around with to a bunch of places. A group of stereotypical gals named Akane, Ki, and Kuroko, who make a number of appearances very late in the show. Yoshiko's homeroom teacher, who constantly is yearning for love. Then finally, the single best character this entire show who literally no one can compete with, Dog. Wow, with such a wide cast of characters all bouncing off of and synergizing with each other so extraordinarily well, that must mean they do a lot with it and resolve character flaws in a coherent story with lots of development, covering each character quality in their own individual mini-arcs, right? right? Alright, let's get into some of the things I didn't really like about this show. As stated at the beginning, this is an episodic anime, meaning each episode is separate from one another in terms of a story. This takes it one step further, however, by breaking each episode into 4 separate stories. The one time there was any sense of cohesion with these stories was during the summer episode, where the cast goes to the beach, a bathhouse, and a summer festival all in one episode. This leaves no room to build any kind of lasting impact besides its comedy. An episodic way of storytelling is not inherently bad though, so why did this one not stick well with me? Why do I say it is to the detriment of the show? To put it bluntly, it's because they don't do it right at all. There are a lot of really good shows who follow the episodic format, and they all have one unifying thing, an end goal. Think of part 3 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. The end goal is to beat Dio and save Holly. In Power Rangers, it is to beat the biggest bad and finally bring about peace. In Aho-Girl, there's nothing that is laid out to the audience as an end goal. Some mini-stories have their own separate end goals and they almost never reach it, or if they do, it's just an excuse for more jokes. Good jokes, but still nothing to make the audience feel invested in what they're doing. My opinion still stands, however, that this is a very fun watch, but due to this lack of cohesion, the entire show becomes pretty forgettable. This is also to the detriment of the characters partaking in these adventures. Because there is no continuous story, there's also no character development. What makes a likable character that sticks with you for a long time is flaws and challenges that the character has to overcome. All the main cast has these flaws, but keep them throughout the entirety of the show. Akutsu is always a mean loner who doesn't appreciate those around him. Yoshiko is always an immature goof who doesn't bother to read the room or better herself. Sayaka and Boot President are the only characters that the show seems to try to do anything with. Sayaka has a breakdown in the karaoke bar talking about how she isn't appreciated and isn't taken seriously. This is an absolutely hilarious scene, but it could have also been a great way to show that Yoshiko cares for her by trying to comfort her, or maybe have Sayaka make the others think about how they treat her, leaving an impact on the group. The second, and the one that upsets me the most, was Boob President. Her mini-story involves Sayaka bringing her to the roof after she was spotted stalking Akutsu. Sayaka then proceeds to confront the president and tell her that what she's doing is not only making Akutsu hate her, but it is also a potential crime. This actually makes the president reflect on her actions and she breaks down because of it. This is fantastic. However, after seeing the president react this way, Sayaka, in an attempt to be nice, tells her she was only joking and nothing changes with the character at all. It's such a good setup and threw it all out. If it wasn't for the comedy, this show would be an immediate F tier, and I would want to forget about it as much as possible. It does have good comedy though, so let's talk about that. Holy shit, this show is fucking hilarious. Every single trope that slice of life anime falls into is parodied perfectly in a way that subverts expectations expertly. Let's take that summer episode again. In the first story, our cast goes to the beach. In a normal slice of life beach episode, we'd have the cast woman show off their chest to her MC and he'd get all flustered or ignore them completely. In Aho-Girl, it starts out that way, but then completely flips gears and turns into Yoshiko burying Sayaka and the president, then building a dick out of sand. After that, we have the bathhouse episode, which once again flips it around and puts it on the female side of the bath, with the girls talking about peeking over to the men's side to see Akutsu. When they eventually try, Yoshiko is met with a steel club to the face and the president gets a lecture. Then what about the summer festival episode? Normally it is a very emotional episode where our main character finally starting to realize their feelings for one of the female love interests. It usually climaxes with fireworks at the end in a beautiful scene where either a confession or a realization of love happens. Truly a highlight of any slice of life rom-com. So what does Aho-Girl do? Exactly what you'd expect actually. She dances practically naked with a bunch of dudes during the festival bond dance. These are all so funny because of all the previous knowledge I have of slice of life anime. Yet the pure shock factor in these jokes are enough to make even someone who has never seen anime before laugh. They do many more parodies throughout the series, but I'll leave it at that for now. There are a lot more jokes besides just the parody angle though, and most of them hit home. Only most though. Yes, unfortunately this anime has rather unsavory ecchi comedy in it as well. There isn't a lot thankfully, but when there is, it usually takes you out of the viewing experience and falls completely flat. The two that stuck out to me the most were one in the beginning of the show having to do with Sayaka and another later on having to do with the president. With Sayaka's, I had Yoshiko's mom being very pushy about seeing her underwear because apparently you can tell a lot about a woman's secret intention by looking at them. No, I'm not buying it. The president's is even worse though. It shows her during the school cultural festival turning down a confession. All goes well until Yoshiko pops up and scolds her for ruining the guy's festival memories. To make up for this, she basically has the guy force himself on the president in order to feel up her breasts and make a good memory of this day. After some understandable resistance from the president, she eventually deals with the guy and Akutsu comes in to deal with Yoshiko. I don't think I need to explain why this one was a miss for me, but just in case, the forceful nature of all of this was just kinda uncomfortable. There are a couple others, but let's get back to some of the absolutely incredible bits of comedy. The jokes that made me laugh the most by far were the slapstick. This has a lot to do with the animation obviously, but the way it looks is only part of it. The sound effects used with every hit or fall or anything is just so perfect. They all have the same comedic effect of perfectly cut screams, and it makes every episode such a joy to watch. Pair this with the outlandish scenarios Yoshiko gets into, and the character interactions, and you have some of the best comedy I have ever seen in an anime. So yeah, it's pretty good. Definitely a joy to watch no matter what. All the negatives I mentioned were mainly just disappointment because this show could have been way better than it was. The best way I could describe this show is hilarious yet forgettable. None of the characters are really gonna stick with you and you probably won't remember anything that happened in any of the episodes, but the one thing that will stick with you is a good time you had watching it. So that leads us to the ranking. The show has great characters but no character development. Incredible comedy, yet no memorable moments due to the lack of cohesion with the story. Due to all of this, I'm gonna give Aho-Girl, the first installment in this series, a solid C ranking. Perfectly average and a great reference point for future installments. So, there it is. What do you think of my ranking? Do you think I'm wrong and Aho-Girl is the best thing since sliced bread and should have been ranked S? Or maybe you think it's a trash show that should never have existed? Either way, let me know in the comments down below and I will see all of you in the next video.